We thought ladies? Sorry, Vaishnavis? Padam Tri Bhumano Krichtam Jigisto Sadhu Vartmame Bruyasmat pritibir brahman anyayapya dadishtitam. Word meanings padam. Position. Tribhuvana, the three worlds. Utkritstam, the best. Jigiso, desirous. Sadhu, honest. Vartma, way. Me, unto. Bruhi, please tell. Asmat, our. Pritibi, by the forefathers, the father and grandfather. Brahman, O great Brahmana. Anyai, by others. Api, even. Anatishtitam, not acquired. Translation. O learned Brahmana. Oh, you listen first. Thank you for your enthusiasm. O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position. This is Dhruva Maharaj, for those that just showed up like me and the UK devotees. This is Dhruva Maharaj speaking to Narada. So those of you that know the story, you'll very quickly know at what point we are in the story. O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my fathers and grandfathers. If you will kindly oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. So now, I'll say, you say, O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my fathers and grandfathers. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. When Dhruva Maharaj refused to accept the Brahminical instruction of Narada Muni, naturally the next question would be what sort of instruction he wanted. Good advice for teachers, right? Students, sometimes they can't accept a certain instruction, so you don't think, now, don't give any instruction. What instruction can they understand and take to heart? So, even before Narada Muni asked, Dhruva Maharaj expressed his heartfelt desire. His father, of course, was the emperor of the entire world. And his grandfather, Lord Brahma, was the creator of the universe. Dhruva Maharaj expressed his desire to possess a kingdom better than those of his father and grandfather. The whole world and the creator of the universe, I want more. He frankly stated that he wanted a kingdom which had no competitor within the three worlds, namely the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. You notice that's such a profound statement. You notice how the echo increased in the room as I said that? The higher, the lower universes. It's not them messing with the machine. It's Krishna making more attention to this. He frankly stated he wanted a kingdom which had no competitor within the three worlds, namely the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The greatest personality within this universe is Lord Brahma. And Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position even greater than his. He wanted to take advantage of Narada Muni's presence because he knew very well that if Narada Muni, the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna, could bless him or show him the path, then certainly he would be able to occupy a more exalted position than any person within the three worlds. Thus, he wanted help from Naradaji to achieve that position. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position greater than that of Brahma. This was practically an impossible proposition, but by pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee can achieve even the impossible. One particular point mentioned here is that Dhruva Maharaj wanted to occupy an exalted position, not by hook or by crook, but by honest means. This indicates that if Krishna offered him such a position, then he would accept it. Repeat that. This indicates that if Krishna offered him such a position, then he would accept it. That is the nature of a devotee. He may desire material gain, but he accepts it only if Krishna offers it. Dhruva Maharaj was sorry to refuse the instructions of Narada Muni. Therefore, he requested him to be merciful to him by showing a path by which he could fulfill his mind's desires. Om Gyana Tamiyandasha Janan Anjana Shalakaya Chakshu Om Minitamina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanyamaro Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to recap a little bit of the story for those of us that are just joining here. So, very famous story. Dhruva Maharaj is the son of the king, the emperor. He was sitting on his father's lap. He was offended by his stepmother, who said, "How dare you sit on your father's lap? Don't you know that I am his favorite queen?" Dhruva was born of another of the king's wives. I think he just had two. She said, "You can't sit there, because you were not born of my womb." So Dhruva becomes very angry, condensed version, goes to his own mother and says, "What can I do? This is a terrible situation. Why have I been offended like this?" And she tells him, "Take shelter of the Lord." And what's interesting, I was rereading the previous verses in this chapter. I'd forgotten, it's actually a stepmother who first tells him, "You should approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead." She's the one who's so jealous and envious and tells him, "You can't sit there. This is for my son. This is my exalted relation of the king." But she has this spiritual knowledge also that she tells him, if you really want to solve your problem, you have to go to God. So it's interesting. It reminded me of Chanakya Pandit's instructions that we should take good instructions even from a fool. So she's giving great instructions even though she's a source of such pain for him. And then when he goes to his mother, she reaffirms that and she gives more detail about how he should do that, go to the forest. So he does. He goes to the forest. He's 5 years old. We have in the Bhāgavatam also these 5-year-old saints that do like phenomenal things. So he's yet another 5-year-old saint that does phenomenal things. He goes to the forest. Narada Muni, understanding that Dhruva is there and his intention, and he goes to see him. And first, Prabhupada describes the purport, he tested him. We have so many histories of spiritual masters testing their disciples. So Narada Muni tests his disciple. Are you actually determined enough? He tells him, just go home, and that doesn't work. He says, "Thank you very much, but if you don't want to help me, why don't you," he kind of says, "why don't you go home? Because I've got my desire here." And then he gives him a nice rabbinical instruction, and he says, "I'm sorry, as we're hearing here, I can't do that. Please help me. Please help fulfill my desire." So that's today's verse, where Dhruva is saying to him, with all due respect, Narada, you are a great Brahmana, but, O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy, I know what I want. You've offered me this transcendental knowledge of being detached, but I'm not ready for that. I want to occupy a position more exalted than quoting here. Any achieved within the 3 worlds by anyone, even my fathers and grandfathers. So that's his desire that, as Prabhupada says, he frankly puts forward to make aware to Narada Muni. So the first thing that struck me this morning when I was reading this verse, I thought, and I didn't have time and I don't have enough scholarly knowledge to recite it from memory, but the first thing that struck me was, this sounds a lot like Hiranyakashipu's desire. It's actually the same. He went under austerity to please a higher personality. In his case was Brahma. And when he came, he said, give me everything. I want to control the universe. He added to it, I don't want to be conquered by anybody, and etc. But he wanted a kingdom greater than anybody's. He wanted to rule over the entire universe. So Dhruva Maharaj, he's asking actually the same thing. And so I was thinking a little bit, well, what's different between those two? Because they're both saying, I want to be the most powerful ruler in the entire universe. And obviously they're very, 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 very different. So what's different? We know that, two thoughts came to my mind. One is the means, and the other one is the ends. Is it described, emphasized in this verse? And Prabhupada draws attention to it in the whole second paragraph. There's only 2 paragraphs in the purport. So anyway, it's emphasized at the end of the purport that he was asking him, let me do this by an honest means. Hiranyakashipu was not interested in honest means. It was by any means. And once he had achieved what he wanted, he used every dishonest, horrendous means to carry out his desire. It wasn't just, I want to control the universe. I want to exploit the universe. I want to manipulate the universe for my own selfish needs. So Dhruva, completely different from that, wanted to achieve his desire, which was there. It was a deeply held desire. He's 5 years old. He's left the palace. He's left home. He's gone to the forest. He's serious. This is what he wants. So it's not that he doesn't want it. It's not some kind of playful desire. He wants a kingdom greater than anyone else, as Hiranyakashipu, but he wants it, if at all possible. He only will accept it if it's done so by honest means. And then the ends is different, because he wants to, as in his future life, he'll do so. He wants to rule the world in the mood of service. He wants to, as Prabhupada points out, he's willing to accept it only if he can do so if Krishna wants. So it's a very important lesson for us, because I remember a few years ago we have this Vaishnava Christian dialogue. We had it just within the last few weeks, our 28th annual. We have some significant people among Vaishnavas. There are a lot of very scholarly Vaishnavas participate. Ravinda Swarup presented many, many times. Garuda Prabhu comes many, many times. Venkatabhata from Princeton comes, and different devotees are highly academic as well as devotionally inclined. And from the Christian side, we have an abbot of the local Benedictine monastery in Washington, D.C., some professors from Georgetown, some professors from Catholic University. We discuss different topics. So 28 years it's been going on nonstop. Maybe I think we did it online during COVID. But this was reminding me, 1 year, actually 2 years, we discussed, the topic was Spirit in the World, Affirmation, Renunciation. Because within both the Christian and the Vaishnava traditions, there's a sense of, what do you do with the world? You know, do you renounce it or do you affirm it? And like within the Christian concept, the simple example comes to mind is Jesus reaffirms like the 10 Commandments, honor thy father and mother. So that's affirming. But then there's at least one story, I don't remember the details, some of you probably know more than I do. Someone came to him and said, I want to follow you, but just, can you hang around a little while? Because I have to go bury my father, and then I'll be back. And Jesus tells him, you're not worthy to follow. It's like, well, how do you mix, wait a minute. It says, honor your father and mother. You can't even, you're ready to like give up the world and become Jesus' disciple. You just got to bury the old guy. Nope, you're not worthy. So there's this tension. And certainly within our tradition, too, there's a lot of tension there. Not for those that are sufficiently understanding, as Prabhupada helps us in the purport, but like, how do you deal with this world? How do you deal with desires? I remember in Denver, where I was for the first 17 years of my devotional career, and then Krishna sent John Masmi to take over, so somebody was more capable, so I could leave. And we had one fellow came, I forget his name, but he was a concert pianist. That was his profession. He was a concert pianist, and he was coming to the temple. He wanted to be a devotee. And we had no idea how to engage him. So, at least in those days, I mean, if you were a new devotee, everybody does the same service, right? What do you do if you're a new devotee? You wash pots, right? So he's a concert pianist, right? Like his hands are his career. And we're telling him, well, here's what you should do. Stick your hands in this hot water that's all soapy and murky, and you can't tell what's down there. There could be some knives, we don't know. But go ahead, stick your hands down there and sacrifice them for Krishna. He had a hard time doing that. And as I recall, with a very short period of time, he just kind of went away. Because it's like, you people don't have a way for me to fit in. And I don't think that was because of him. That was largely because we didn't know how to help him fit in. I can remember giving a very radical class. Sorry to admit my ignorance, but or those of you that didn't live through this period of time, I can remember thinking I was really progressive, because when I was temple president, I was telling devotees that we need to understand that not every sincere devotee lives inside the temple. There could be, and there are people that live across the street that are chanting 16 rounds a day. They're also devotees. It was like as far as the umbrella went. And that was like, I was kind of concerned everybody would not rebel, to think that you could live across the street. What do they call it? Cherrywood Manor down the street, and that they're 16 around. So now we're understanding, of course, we've broadened our understanding of devotional service and devotees and how people can engage in Krishna service. So here, Dhruva Maharaj just gave an example of that, and it reminds me of the famous verse which Archita helped me remember and find this morning. 2:3:10. Akama sarvakama va mokshakama udaradi tivanina bhakti yogena yujate purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation. So 3, you have all desires, you have no material desires, you just want to be liberated, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. And in the purport, Prabhupada, just read a little of this. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. Bhakti Yoga, being the supreme means of realization, is recommended herein. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. So whatever one's conscience, whatever desires are, the scripture is recommending, our founder Acharya is recommending, worship Krishna. Do that connected to Krishna. And it's such an important message for us, because if we actually envision, as Prabhupada did and as Lord Chaitanya did, that our movement's meant to go everywhere and attract everyone and engage everyone in the process of bhakti, we can't have a super narrow definition of what that means. In the early days of our trying to grasp what renunciation meant, I can recall many conversations with fellow devotees, fellow brahmacharis. I was a brahmachari for about 10 years. And the language used to be, and I mention this not to kind of, beat up on ourselves or talk about the fact that we weren't as mature as we could be, but to help us understand where we need to go. The conversation used to be, Archita Prabhu, did you hear who fell down? And Archita would say, no. Who? And I would say, Vishnu Das. Or whatever. He would say, really? Who'd he marry? Remember those days, Archita? Am I exaggerating? No. It was like, if you're not a Brahmin, and of course, we were very exalted, renowned souls. I mean, some of us, we'd been there for like 5 or 6 months. Right? So we were like Paka renounced, and free from material desires and all that stuff. Along that line, I can remember the first wedding I didn't attend in Krishna consciousness. Do you remember the temple room where the where the office was later was the brahmachari ashram for a certain point in time. So there was a wedding, devotee wedding, two very nice devotees were getting married in the temple room, and we were like on the other side of the wall, chanting the pastimes of Haridas Thakur, just so we weren't like too much affected or infected by what was going on over there. I mean, I'm saying it's true. I was kind of new. I just went along with what they said we should do. But hooray for their enthusiasm and renunciation. And, most of those devotees are still going along nicely in devotional service. But we can understand it wasn't completely the inclusive view that's given by our acharyas. So in a similar way, we could easily think if the story was told a little differently, Dhruva Maharaj, he wants a kingdom as great as Brahma's. This guy's a rascal. Right? I mean, to borrow from Prabhupada's occasionally colorful language, hog, dog, camel, and ass. Right? I mean, he wants everything. He's like a big, but we're learning in this verse, no, not at all. Because he was trying to understand how to fulfill his desire by approaching God, by taking the direction of a he had, Narada Muni of a spiritual authority, and he was only willing to fulfill that desire if it was the desire of Krishna, how Krishna wanted him to do it, and he wanted to do it by honest means. So this is really important for us to see, like, as our movement spreads, these are kind of like the boundaries of how we can understand how to properly engage people. Because we know, it's a fact, people are different. They don't all fit one mold. The concert pianist does not fit the mold of the rest of us who are dropouts from college, hitchhiking around the country, looking to find something to do that connect them with God. And we moved in, they said, wash pots and do this, do that. It was like, great. We're ready to go. Different strokes, as they say, for different folks. So it's true that people are different, and it's very true that even also, devotees are different. It's a very important lesson for leaders and for managers, for devotee parents, to always keep in mind people are different. Narada tried one instruction for Dhruva, and it didn't work. He was kind of thinking, well, I'm going to give you the top stuff first. It was like, no, thank you. Well, okay, we'll try this. And it's interesting because it just makes me think of it also in the 12th chapter, Krishna does the same thing in his conversation with Arjuna. He doesn't directly tell him, but he tells him, but indirectly says, the best thing is you just worship me. That's the topmost thing. Be totally focused on me. But if you can't do that, practice bhakti. But if you can't do that, then work for me. But if you can't do that, then some good cause, right? Give in charity, etc. He said, if you can't do that, cultivate knowledge. So we should, I mean, how could Prabhupada come to New York City, the Lower East Side, if he's thinking that everybody's supposed to be Paka Brahmachari? I mean, why would you come here? Right? Krishna sent him all these young men and women, and he engaged them in different ways because of his beautiful transcendental vision. But without that, when he was in the Boston Harbor, he wrote his prayers to Krishna. Why have you brought me to this? I don't know why you brought me to this horrible place. The people here are completely overwhelmed. I think he says modes of passion. I think he gives them credit for a little passion. By the modes of passion in English, how are they going to understand this message? But because of this vision that's being shared here about Dhruva Maharaj and what it means to be a Vaishnava, the understanding how everyone can be engaged nicely in Krishna's service. So as members as Prabhupada and Nuga, as members of this society, we have to also be very careful to understand we can't expect everyone will be like me. We all know, each one of us in this room knows that we're the best, right? You all know that, right? That's what your mind tells you, right? That you're the best. And your senses tell you that you're the center, okay? Our intelligence tries to sell us something differently, but sometimes it's a struggle. But even knowing you're the best, you can't expect everybody else to be the best like you. I remember when I first learned a little bit, I don't know very much at all. It's not that important for devotees, but I first learned a little bit about astrology. I remember the first thing that hit me was like, oh, you mean they don't think the way I do? Because I realized I had this tendency to think everybody measures things the way I do. I'm just more surrendered than they are. You know, everybody knows that you're supposed to be like this, but I'm just doing a better job. And then I realized, well, people have different ways of doing things. I was speaking with a devotee recently, was talking about how, again, not too much on astrology, but he said, I've got a very strong sun. And he said, people think I'm arrogant, but actually I'm not. I'm just pushy because I have this force. So Dhruva Maharaj is like, you want a whole kingdom? Yeah, do it for Krishna. You know, you have a strong personality, give it to Krishna. You're bashful, give it to Krishna. You're a scholar, give it to Krishna. You like being with a lot of people, give it to Krishna. You like being by yourself, give it to Krishna. So we shouldn't think that the definition of a sincere devotee is that they're like me. You should be very careful. That's a big trick of Maya. You know, if you're a sincere devotee, you got to stick your constant penis hands in this hot water and get cut up and scalded a little times, because that's what I had to do. And if you're not sincere enough to do that, sorry, buddy, you don't fit in. I mean, how are we going to spread our movement if we're thinking like that, you know? If we're grahastas and some young man comes, or woman, who's very inspired towards spiritual life and really has a sense that at that stage of life, at least they want to renounce, we need to encourage that. Wow, what a rare talent. And if we're a brahmachari or a sannyasi or an elder single woman, and somebody's really enthusiastic to be married, and, you know, it's like, wow, we got to encourage that. Somebody walks in the door and wants to make a ton of money. Wow, that's great. Do it for Krishna. You know, even our concept of the spiritual realm and pure devotees, the Pandavas have a slightly different mood from the queens of Dwarka. I'm being funny, obviously. They have a completely different mood from the queens, but they're all pleasing Krishna. They're all pure devotees. They're all satisfying the Lord according to their different desires. The gopis, we certainly understand. I mean, their mood is even very, very different from other Yashodas. They all love Krishna. They're all trying to please Krishna, but their mood is different. Teaching as Vaishnavas, which is so wonderful, is we're all persons. It's a personal philosophy, and as persons, we can learn. We should encourage one another to offer whatever skills we have, whatever talent we have, whatever desires we have for the Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to be the king, and therefore the message of Narada Muni is kind of like, you know, modern American expression. Well, it's not American, Nike's global now, right? Go for it. Do it. Just do it. You want to be the king? Great. Do it. But understand who the real king is, and understand what it means to actually be a good ruler. And you want to make a lot of money? Great. Honest means. Don't make your money to exploit others, as is so common in the world today, but make money to benefit people. You want to do business person? Be a businessman for Krishna, or businesswoman for Krishna. You want to renounce the world? Great. Don't do it out of false ego. Do it for Krishna. I mean, sometimes we hear of people in the mood of renunciation, and even in the Gita is described as which mode where they torture their bodies. They're not doing it for Krishna. They try to renounce too much. Sometimes devotees get sick. I had a good friend. He left the movement after some time, and I heard later that he actually passed away when he was young, and there was some sense that maybe because he was fasting too much. He pushed his body too much. So renounce, but renounce for Krishna. Prabhupada, I don't know what the occasion was, but someone had approached him about something, and Prabhupada said, there's enough austerity in our movement already. Like sometimes with the interfaith stuff I do, and, you know, talking with people, I mentioned this the other day, I think yesterday with the devotees from UK, interacting with people from different traditions, and some of them, like our Muslim friends, in the summer, no water, or during Ramadan, sometimes in the summer, very hot climates, no water from sunrise till sunset. That's a tremendous austerity for a month. I don't know if I can do that. So I was kind of thinking about it, and I thought, yeah, we don't really have any heavy fasts like that. We fast for a day on Janmashtami. But I thought, no. Actually, we have lifelong fasts. We take vows to fast for life, no meat for life. No fish for life, no eggs for life, no intoxication for life, no gambling for life. Those are heavy vows. You tell people that, oh my gosh. When I was first experimenting with Christian consciousness, I had a friend in college who was kind of like the guru of all the people and kind of turned everybody on to different books and things like that. And I'd moved away and I came back and I was talking with him and sharing spiritual stuff. And I asked him, what do you think about the Hare Krishnas? He said, whoa, those people are serious. Then I knew it was bona fide. Because even Joe was a little freaked out that that's too much. You know, like, whoa, those people are... And we're serious. We're serious. And at the same time, we're serious, but we're welcoming. You know, somebody walks in the door, as they did. I mean, the classic story down the street, 26 2nd Avenue, across the river, right? The bum walks in, looks around the room, stumbles out, comes back with some toilet paper and paper towel, and Prabhupada said, just see. His devotional life has begun, right? Classic story. I mean, it's beautiful. And when you visit that place, this little tiny thing, he stumbled in and probably stepped on a few people. And the devotees were all watching. How's Swamiji going to respond to this? And Swamiji was very welcoming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And he was chuckling, just see. So in a sense, we should think, I stumbled in. I got some toilet paper and some paper towel. And Prabhupada's accepting it. And he's helping us engage in Krishna service. And one of the things that we're asked to do is to have the same mood with others. Whether we're a new bhakta, you know, we've been here one day, the people come in on day 2 and you came on day 1, okay, treat them with compassion. We've been here for 5 years or 50 years now, some of us 60 years, some. Treat them with compassion, remembering Dhruva Maharaj. Narada Muni didn't say, you know, you fool, you idiot, you can't do that. If you can't follow the higher instruction, go away. Get out of here. I'm here to teach Pakka Brahminical, pure Krishna consciousness. No, he said, okay, that's your desire? Okay, here's how you use it for Krishna and how you become purified. And as Prabhupada says, but do it by honest means. Business, renunciation, you want a big family? You know, do it for Krishna. Some people, they want to have a lot of kids. That's great, fantastic. We heard a presentation by a Vaishnava sociologist at the communications conference in Italy just a few weeks ago, and he was saying, sociologically studying, traditions that don't have a lot of kids don't survive. And I was thinking, we got to talk that up a little bit more. Because we kind of have this tendency to tell people that, no, you shouldn't have kids. If somebody wants, I mean, a lot of people don't want kids. That's great. That's okay. Janmashtami's here. 2 sons, right? Yeah, it's like both nice young men. So devotees, you know, people that want to have big families, great, do it for Krishna. You want to be a politician? That's a tough one. But you want to be a politician? Do it, the real tough one. Honest means. Woo, how do you do that? You know? That's a tough one, but that's the standard. You want to do business? Great. Make money, honest means. Don't cheat people. It's a tough one. You may not make as much as the people that cheat, but it's going to last longer. It's going to purify your consciousness. So, do it by honest means, and unlike going back to Hiranyakashipu, do it in a way that doesn't inflict pain or struggle or difficulty in other people's lives. Hiranyakashipu, he didn't care. He was just somehow or other conquer the world. Whereas Dhruva Maharaj is like he wants the Lord's sanction. So this is really it's a beautiful vision, Vaishnava vision of positive society, that everyone is taught how to use whatever their talents and their abilities are for Krishna. So you want to, whatever, you want to open a restaurant, great, make it a Pakka restaurant for Krishna. Again, you want to do business, do business for Krishna. You want to drive cabs, that's great. Do it for Krishna. You want to have a lot of kids, do it for, spiritualize it. And it's so easy to do. Bhakti is so wonderful. And then automatically the world becomes prosperous, automatically, and the world becomes more peaceful. And at the end, we make progress, we go back to Godhead. So this really should be, this vision that's being shared in this verse and these purports, this should be our vision as devotees. And like Narada Muni, we should try to be like that with others. Whatever you walk in the door, whatever your consciousness is, Here's how you can add Krishna. Even people like the lowest consciousness we know eat some prasadam. And after some time, then they can kind of come out of their lower mode and think about what they can do for Krishna. So I was seeing just like the devotees from the UK. Obviously, you are amongst those that want to travel, right? Not everybody want to travel. I'm sure you approached a bunch of other people and said, yeah, it's an airplane flight for 7 hours. Well, it's 2 hours to get to the airport, 2 hours waiting in the airport. You stand in line for an hour trying to get through customs, and you sit on a plane. It starts at 11 o'clock at night. When you're dead tired, you stay overnight, and when you arrive, it's morning, and you haven't slept. And then you start, and you go to the temple, and blah, 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 blah. And some people are like, you're kidding. Why would I want to do that? Right? And other people are like, wow, that sounds great. Wow, that's exciting. And they're here, right? They're the ones that are here. And hopefully by your enthusiasm, when you go back, you can inspire a few other people. But different strokes are for different folks. So travel, same thing again, learn how people can travel for Krishna, do it for Krishna. So I was just thinking, and I'll kind of end with this. We should, as was Prabhupada, develop almost like a sense of excitement of meeting others, learning about them, encourage them to use their skills. Like Prabhupada, like you think the classic example, Prabhupada with some of the artists. Oh, you know how to paint? Great, do it for Krishna. I need to illustrate my books. Satsvarupa Maharaj, you know how to type? Great. I got a closet full of stuff for you to type. Somebody has a little inclination how to cook? Great, let me teach you how to cook. You want to get married? Great, I'll get you married. You want to renounce? Great, I'll teach you about sannyas. You never really knew about what it really means to renounce the world, etc. You want to have a mantra rock concert? Great. Do it for Krishna. It's phenomenal. So if we imbibe this mood of our founder Acharya and help people, it really is our duty. The Radha Govinda is here. It's their place. It's their palace. It's their home. We're helping be hosts for people that come here. So we need to understand our duty, like Narada, to help people feel appreciated, help them feel needed, help them feel wanted, help them feel valuable. And in that way, they'll feel that they've actually found a home, because everybody's looking to find a place to fit in. The whole, you look around New York, you just see it every instant. Like, you see people like crazy costumes and outfits. Like, why? Because they're looking, maybe I fit in. Maybe if I dye my hair, I'll connect with, bright red. I'll connect with it, I'll fit in. Maybe if I go to this bar, I'll fit in. Or if I listen to this kind of music, I'll fit in, or make this much money, I'll fit in. Where do I fit in? Where am I going to be appreciated? Where am I going to actually find that kind of satisfaction in the heart that I'm looking for? So we want to try to manifest that as servants of Prabhupada. And conversely, the warning is here, if we choose to be, not to be too extreme, but if we choose to be more like Dhruva's stepmother, if we choose to be envious, if we choose to think, no, I'm special. She told him, I'm special, my womb is special, my son's special, you're not special. And the world's full of people who think I'm special. Nations are thinking they're special. We need you. We need your space. And we're just going to push you aside because we want your space. And racial tension, it's the same thing, comes from that same illusion. Different classes, genders, religions, we're special. And if we allow that to happen, it means we're being ruled by greed and envy and anger. And the actual result is, one, our movement won't spread the way it's meant to. It'll spread for some time and then it'll fade away like so many religions in the history. We'll suffer individually. There won't be progress. And we'll ultimately fail in our service to Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada. But if we take up this mood that Narada is manifesting of engaging Dhruva Maharaj, and we know the story is going to become such a wonderfully exalted devotee. If we take up that mood of Lord Chaitanya's mission and Srila Prabhupada and Narada Muni, encouraging everyone, of course, starting with us, starting with ourselves, starting with fellow Vaishnavas, how to serve Krishna, then our movement becomes such a source of joy and enthusiasm for others. Will become joyful. And as I just sometimes like to end with this, Prabhupada said, so beautiful, inspires me. Prabhupada said, just become Krishna conscious and enjoy life with a thrill at every moment. It's such a wonderful, just become Krishna conscious. Life becomes thrilling at every moment. Like, wow, let's do it. So we'll stop. We have a few minutes, I think. Questions, comments, reflections, realizations.
Haribol, it's been a long time since I've heard you give a class in person. Thank you so much. I just wanted to touch on that last point that you made about Prabhupada engaging people according to their propensity. There's one very special one that sometimes we forget. There's always this controversy about editing. And sometimes people think that we force editing on Prabhupada. But when Prabhupada met Howard Wheeler, who later on became High Degree, we asked him, "Oh, what do you do?" He said, "I'm an English professor." He said, "Oh, you know how to edit?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Here, take this manuscript and edit it." So the editing process was started by Prabhupada. It's not that Prabhupada's disciples forced editing on him. He started the editing process. He gave his manuscript to Howard Wheeler, not even an initiated devotee, and said, "Edit it." Now, why would Prabhupada do that? He wanted his books to be polished to a certain standard where English speakers, especially educated English speakers, would accept them. So I always remind people of that, because people say, "Why are you guys editing Prabhupada's books?" I keep reminding them there was no nefarious motive. Prabhupada wanted his books edited, and he started a process by engaging Howard Wheeler to edit his Bhagavad Gita manuscript.
Thank you. Important.
Hare Krishna. So
important.
it's very important, yes, to understand that. Hare Krishna.
Very important. Thank you. John Mastami Prabhu is like a who's who of North America here today.
When I joined the movement, Prabhupada there was a real kind of a strict following, like everyone wanted to be brahmachari, and that the kind of mood that you're describing now. My sense is that because we were all hippies, and he had to straighten us out, get us up to the platform, and that's why he emphasized brahmacharya so much. And, but then 50% of his business was unfinished. That's why he was coming to go to Gita Nagari, to get that established, where people are engaged more and more towards their propensity, because there were a lot of fall downs taking place. What I'm saying, does that make sense?
Yeah, they're signaling that the microphone's not on, so we don't.
Oh, you didn't hear it?
Maybe just continue with a little closer to your mouth.
Oh, okay.
I think you're doing
should
one of those.
Too much ecstasy.
So you don't have to repeat the whole thing, just take it from there.
Yeah.
So then the question? You know, I remember I came to the movement in August, and I was initiated in February. There were 70 devotees in Denver in the temple. When I joined, there was about 40 when I got initiated. And later, I remember when I became temple president, there were 28. So it's like, hey. So I think the point is, your point is a very good one. And sometimes we have to give, and I experience, and he told me something that I never heard anybody say from any tradition. I shouldn't have mentioned his because it's not the common understanding, and many people would be horrified, Jewish people, most, if not 99.99%. But anyway, a young rabbi in a lecture he heard when he was with his grandfather said that if you're not Jewish, there's no difference between you and an inanimate object. And he said his grandfather refused to go to that synagogue again because this guy is so far off from our tradition. But, you know, you meet people that are like so kind of narrow focused. And to one extent, I think we have to give them credit. And I think a little of this kind of maybe sometimes over the top renunciation spirit of those, you know, we were hippies, so now we're going to go over here until we find the balance. I mean, sometimes people, it's like, you know, I remember I met a guy at Rath Yatra in Baltimore a few years ago. I was just kind of wandering around. I was at GBC, so I had nothing to do, right? They didn't assign me to a booth. So I spent about an hour talking to this Christian guy. He had like a Jesus Saves on his shirt. And I was just half an hour just talking to him. And he was telling me about how he used to drink and smoke and cheat on his wife. And then he got Jesus and how his life turned around. And his wife's just standing there going, yeah, you know. And I was telling him, this is fantastic. This is what, I'm so happy. And he's down there on whatever is Memorial Day weekend. He could be at the beach. He's down there telling people about Jesus. Now, he was open-minded enough to talk to me. He wasn't necessarily ready to give credit for our mantras are the same as his prayers. But it just really struck me how, you know, Krishna is working on him through a different tradition and really changed the guy's life. And he's not at a stage of being able to understand how Krishna may work in other ways. He's just understanding. He turned my life around. So, you know, it's not my position to tell him, to force him to think, well, there's other me. I got to like go, wow. And I found myself, I was inspired by him to go, like, I got to start chanting Hare Krishna more sincere because I don't know if I'm making him as, you know, is Krishna as happy with my level of prayer as he is the way he intervened in this person's life? I mean, I hope so. In some ways, yeah, maybe more so because pure devotion has been given to me an opportunity to take it up. But I think we have to see that that's part of natural religious experience, spiritual experience, that at least for some people, whatever way Krishna starts really getting you to experience something higher and attracting you, you naturally become really focused on that, and it's hard to think that there's other some people maybe immediately they're so broad-minded, but a lot of people that's more narrow-minded. The same thing like where do grahastas fit in, you know, etc. Yeah. So we don't want to water down at all our own commitment and our level of renunciation. And we all know you have to give. I listened to tape the other day, recording Prabhupada was saying, if you have even a pinch of material desire, you'll have to come back again. I was like, whoa, you know. Prabhupada, I think I'm going to change this lecture. I want to hear one of the other lectures. You know? It was like both are there. Both sides are there. Yeah. So we should stop now, I think, huh? Okay. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. Dhruva Maharaj ki jai. And Narada Muni ki jai.